in general that they are actually as good as they have done in the tournament in the past couple years.
I think that was a really good point there. I think that's a really good way of describing it. And, I think it just boils down to, the Pac-12, they just kind of beat each other up. And I guess, iron sharpens iron. So once it comes to the tournament time, there they are. So it's just like, okay. And the Mountain West does have good basketball. They do. San Diego State's good. And they have a lot of rising programs like Boise State, New Mexico. Those schools are getting better at basketball. Colorado State's good this year. So I don't think I think it's just iron sharpens iron and just got those good ball players and just makes you ready for the tournament. So we see it a lot, and I think that's all it is. So
yeah, jumping in there real quick, TP, about the Mountain West. I just saw something from John Rothstein saying that it has been 11 years now since the Mountain West has put 5 teams into the NCAA tournament. And I just looked at the standings. I haven't kept up with the Mountain West too much. My God, it's one of the deeper conferences I've seen. I know their non-conference schedule isn't great, but Colorado State is currently the number 13 team in the country, and they are 5th in conference standings after a week of Mountain West play. There's multiple teams with double-digit wins. Utah State's 14-1. New Mexico is 13-2, and you already mentioned Boise State, Nevada. We haven't talked about the Wolfpack very much. They're 14-1. I don't know for sure that we'll get 5 of those teams into the tournament, but I mean, they've gotten off to a really strong start in non-conference play, and if they can all put up strong showings in the Mountain West over the next 2 or 3 months, I think we could get 5, maybe even 6 into the tournament this year, especially considering if maybe we get a big upset in the tournament and a team like Wyoming, who's got a winning record right now, but isn't that strong of a team, can win it. You can get quite a few at-large bids.
I don't see 6 Mountain West teams making it. I know we're kind of pivoting to the Mountain West right here, but I'm just fine with that because I love the Mountain West too. But I think you're going to maybe have 2 to 3 at-large bids in the Mountain West. You've got 5 teams that are probably deserving at this point. You have New Mexico that's down in the standings. They're 1-1 right now. They're 13-2. Their only losses are to St. Mary's and to Colorado State. So that's a really solid resume right there. And they're probably, the 4th or 5th team if you're looking at the Mountain West right now. I'd love to see the Mountain West get 5 at-large bids. I just don't see it in this conference because they're all playing each other. They don't have any marquee matchups remaining. You could say, on the road at Colorado State could be a marquee matchup, but Colorado State, I think they just took a loss this week. If I'm not mistaken, they're going to be sliding in the rankings a little bit, and I think we'll see Utah State in the rankings next week. But otherwise, I just don't see 5 at-large teams making it from this conference.
Well, good deal. I think that answered your question there. So, and we kind of pivoted there. So let's move on to the Big 12 conference here. Big 12, like we said, best by far. Ken Palm even agrees it's pretty decisive there. All these teams have played one conference game, so I'm not going to say who's in first or not. I'll just read off who's 1-0, and then after that, 0-1. So, we got Houston at 14-0, Baylor at 12-2, Kansas at 13-1, Oklahoma at 13-1, Cincinnati 12-2, Texas Tech 12-2, Kansas State 11-3. Those are all the 1-0 conference teams. The 0-1 conference teams: BYU 12-2, Iowa State 11-3, TCU 11-3, Texas 11-3, Oklahoma State 8-6, and West Virginia 5-9. So, guys, I know this is the best conference, and I mean, outside of 3 teams in that whole entire conference, all of them. Now, besides those 3 teams, they all have double-digit wins already, which is pretty impressive. So, guys, I'm going to turn the floor over to y'all. Tell me what's surprising, what you've been impressed by, what you've been disappointed by. I mean, yesterday we saw Houston get ran out. Not Houston. Houston ran West Virginia out of the building. And so I'm just curious to see what y'all have to say about the Big 12.
Yeah. Can't say that it's a disappointment much because most people kind of expect it to happen. But the state of West Virginia right now is cool as funny.
Time out. You're turning into RT dude too.
Oh shit. But that there
No, is it just you guys?
this.
It's okay. Hold on. Speak. Hold on. Just say some sort of sentence. Just be like, my name is Payne Golden.
Little Livy done really
Oh
grog.
God. Oh God.
It's cutting out, which is good because I didn't want to have to hear that shit.
Okay, is it any better now?
No,
I don't know why.
a little.
A little. Hold on. Disconnect your AirPods and reconnect them. Here, I'm gonna pause the recording. I'm gonna do that. We have technology. Boom. Okay. Payne, you had something to say about Big 12 basketball. No, hold on. Payne, you had something to say about this subject?
Yeah, so I can't call it a disappointment that much because it was kind of expected with the turmoil that the program went through over the past year. But I'm really disappointed in the state of West Virginia's basketball program right now. Everybody saw this coming with everything that happened with Bob Huggins. I'm not going to get into all of that right now, but they weren't what they used to be several years ago, but it's the downward slide is starting. They're snowballing right now. They're at the bottom of the Big 12, and without a coach like Huggins, it's going to be a long time before they get back up there because recruiting at WVU it's a tough sell, especially with the influx of programs that have come into the Big 12. There's a lot of big programs with big money, and West Virginia is not going to be able to keep up with that. And they're going to need another incredible coach who is able to work with the lesser talent that he has. And they don't have that anymore. And it's going to be really tough for them. And I don't see them making another big step anytime soon. It's just tough to see.
Yeah, just on that note, it's just sad to see what's happening with West Virginia right now. If you looked at their preseason roster, before the whole downfall of Bob Huggins, they were a preseason consensus top 5 team, and a lot of people had them as their dark horse title pick coming into the year. And as early as last offseason, when they had they had a pretty good year. They were a solid top 30 team, but they returned all their key contributors who they obviously lost in the transfer portal after Huggins was ousted from the program. It's just crazy to see how they can go from being one of the top teams in the country to being arguably one of the worst teams in Power 5 now, Power 6.
Yeah, it's just simply going to be a long time before they trend up. I think I don't see any way that they're going to make any moves in an upward direction anytime soon because they really have no recourse to take Huggins back, but that would be the only way they could improve the quality of play that they're getting. But, moving on to the upper part of the Big 12, as fun as it is to talk about West Virginia, because I know we have some West Virginia sympathizers here. Like I've said it before, I'll say it a lot more. I think the Big 12 is the best conference in basketball. I think it's going to be the most entertaining, but I think there are some frauds. I think BYU got pretty well exposed this weekend. I think that is going to continue to happen. They hadn't really played anybody, and they're about to go play some people. I think there's going to be a pretty steep learning curve for all 4 of the new members. I think that BYU is going to struggle. I think UCF and Cincinnati are going to struggle quite a bit. Houston obviously is a very good team, but I don't think they're as good as they're being given credit for right now. You look at the ESPN BPI for some of Houston's future matchups, you'd think that they're the 2017 Golden State Warriors. Like the matchup favoring for Houston at Kansas in Allen Fieldhouse, which it is so hard to win in Allen Fieldhouse. They think there's a 77% chance Houston wins that. That's just not right. That is not reflective of reality, in my opinion. And I don't even as a pessimistic Kansas fan, I don't even think that this team is a particularly good one yet. I think they lack depth, and I think there are some glaring issues with them. But I think some of the newcomers are going to struggle a lot more than people think they are. And I also think there are some established teams like Oklahoma that have been made out to look like they're better than they are. And I mean, the Big 12 is going to be the harshest gauntlet. And so that's going to get exposed. And by the end of the Big 12 regular season, we're going to know who's good and who's not definitively. So I'm excited to see that. I think we've talked about it before, and we'll continue to. You got to put your faith in Hall of Fame coaching. And for that reason, pretty much alone, I think Kansas wins the Big 12 this season. It seems like they always do. They always find a way, no matter who they got, no matter what's going on otherwise. And that is because of one reason, and that is Bill Self. It's the same reason that when they're in a close game heading into the last 4 minutes, they win it a disproportionate amount of the time. And I just think that I don't see any reason that would stop anytime soon. But I think you got to look out for the Big 12 to be really entertaining in the regular season. And you got to look out for several of those teams, including Houston, to be contenders in the tournament.
I'll keep mine brief, and then I'll throw it to Jackson here. I would like to say my thought on the Big 12 is outside of Purdue, and I think we could see this game in the national championship, but Houston versus Purdue would be incredible. I'm just saying. I think this is the year that Houston finally puts it all together. They've been really close, and I thought last year they could do it, but they had some injuries. But they've just looked awesome for most of these games. I mean, they have really, really poured it on some teams. And I'm really excited to see how they do against like Baylor and some other schools like that. And they won't play Baylor for a while. But nevertheless, I've been really impressed by what I've seen from the Cougars. They get Iowa State away on Tuesday. Tuesday's going to be an awesome day of college basketball. January 9th, and that I think they got a real good position here to really run the table.
Yeah, I was just going to say one thing about this upcoming Iowa State Houston game, which I think is interesting. I think the metrics are really overvaluing Iowa State right now. They're number 5 in ESPN's BPI, and I know they're pretty high in KenPom too, and the NCAA's net ranking. Iowa State is considerably higher than Kansas in these metrics, which is baffling to me when you look at their body of work and how they've played and who they've played. Houston only has a 60 to 65% chance to beat Iowa State, yet they have a 77% chance to win at Allen Fieldhouse. That's just, I think that really just goes to show that a lot of these metrics should be taken with a grain of salt. And you really just have to, the eye test is just as important, if not more important, which I'm sure we'll talk about as the season progresses when we're heading into March.
I think you're 100% right about taking these metrics with a grain of salt. I mean, we're making a very similar point here. I will say, though, Ames is a really, really difficult place to take a win out of, especially when it's a high-profile anticipated matchup. Kansas struggles there incredibly historically, and a lot of other good teams too. It's really, really difficult. So I would personally look for Iowa State to hand Houston their first loss in that game.
To keep things going, I'm going to switch teams a little bit. This might be a very hot take. I wanted to talk about Baylor for a second. They